One of my greatest hits, again, big quotation marks there, is I've shared the story of one of my friends from seminary, one of my classmates from seminary, the story of Brian Burkham. Right, Brian, one of my class, one of the boys from the Diocese of Wichita, Brian grew up down in Garden Plain, just west of Wichita there. He grew up as a farmer. He's one of 7 kids, just down to earth. And in his life, he was just chill. He just wanted to be a farmer, and he wanted to be a priest. That's what he wanted. Farmer, priest, easy. We also found out later he had one other little dream. He wanted to be a hero and save someone's life. But mostly, he just wanted to be a farmer and be a priest. That was it. Well, on July 9th of 2016, so this would have just been a few years before he would have been ordained a priest. Brian was out kayaking with a group of his friends there on the Arkansas River, and they hit some really choppy waters, and one of the boats overturns, and this gal she's in a pretty dangerous spot. But then Brian, what does Brian do? Again, no one was surprised. Brian goes over to her, jumps out of his own boat, gives her his own life jacket, gives her a shove towards the shore, saving her life and giving his life at the same time. We never saw Brian again, but there in the most, again, circumstances he never expected, a way that he never expected, he actually fulfilled his great dream to be a hero, to save someone's life. That probably was not what he was thinking about when he said, I want to save someone's life, but yet there it was, in the most unexpected of circumstances, this dream for adventure, this dream to be a hero, this dream to save someone's life, it happened. Another one of my, again, greatest hit is my obsession with the Lord of the Rings. Very sorry about this, but again, those books by J.R.R. Tolkien, the movies that were made later. But one of my favorite scenes in all that I've never actually shared with you. There's this beautiful scene. So again, you know the premise of the movie. There's the main character Frodo, and he's supposed to go and destroy the ring, save the world. That's the premise. That's all you need to know. Frodo, though, he's always wanted to go on an adventure. He's always wanted to just live a life where it's just an amazing just adventure all the time. He is kind of stuck at home. He just kind of lives a normal, boring life. But he's always wanted an adventure, and finally he gets it. He's literally on a quest to save the world. Destroy this ring, save the world. But then in the middle of this, he's just exhausted and exasperated, and he tells one of the other main characters, Gandalf, he tells him, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened. Right? Again, he got everything he wanted. Finally, adventure. Finally, able to do something great. Literally, save the world. And he's just like, I just want to go home. I just wish life was normal and chill. This is too much. This was great. I just wish this had never happened. And then wisely, again, Frodo starts to reject the circumstances of his life. He's like, this was not what I was thinking it'd be like, so I'll just quit. To that, Gandalf replies, very, very wisely, very importantly, Gandalf says, well, again, so do all who live to see such times, but that's not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that we've been given. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that we've been given. So again, the witness of Brian Burkham, these insights that Tolkien gives to us, this is the tension that we can easily live. Like Brian, many of us probably, we just want to live a normal life. Like, we are very content with how things are going. Farmer, priest, just chill lives. Sure, we want our lives to matter in some way. Kind of like Brian, he wanted to save someone's life, like do something important, make sure his life mattered or something. So we have that. We want to make sure our lives matter. But for most part, we're very content just to live a normal, chill life. Very easy. Some of us, though, we're like Frodo. We're living a normal, chill life, but there's this tension of like, I want to go do something more amazing, though. I want an even greater adventure. But then we can easily recognize that, well, we're actually on that adventure, and I just wish things were different. I wish none of this had happened. I wish these circumstances were different. Okay, so the question then is, what about us? All of us, what are the circumstances of our life? They're many and varied, I know, but just think like big picture. What are the circumstances that we find ourselves in? Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, I think he wisely summed it up. He wisely pointed it out. Pope Francis said that the time that we live in, the circumstances that we live in, it's not so much an age of change. Things are changing so quickly. It's not an age of change. We live in a true change of the age, a change of the age itself. In other words, the times that we live in, the circumstances that we're in, it's not just that things are changing quickly. Internet, communication, social media, politics, the church. It's not that just things are changing quickly. It's that the time that we live in, there's just a fundamental change in the era, the age that we live in. I've talked about what this looks like a lot, probably too much, but I've talked about this a lot. One of the ways that we can see the fruit of this age that we live in, one of the fruits of this age, not fun, but one of the fruits of this age is the widespread disaffiliation from any sort of faith whatsoever. And we've experienced that. Right? We know friends, we know siblings, we know children that have just fallen away from any sort of faith. That's not your fault or someone's fault. It's this change of the age that we live in. That's one of the fruits of this time that we live in. Another one, I've talked about this before too, another one of the fruits of this age that we live in, these circumstances that we're now in, is just this widespread, this precipitous growth in despair and hopelessness. I pointed this out in a lot of ways. The easiest way that I pointed out, though, is that we live in a time where the deaths of despair continue to just skyrocket. So that'd be deaths related to alcohol, drugs, and suicide. Those are just still skyrocketing. Again, it's a fruit of the circumstances we live in, just the widespread despair. And then even if it's not that extreme, what happens? Which none of us are guilty of course. But one of the other things that happens is we easily just begin to numb out. We're like, I don't want to feel this. This feels uncomfortable. This is very uncomfortable. And so we start to numb out. Sometimes we use substances, but more so, and this is how we say we're not doing anything wrong, we love to numb out with Netflix. Okay, we Netflix, social media, 14 and a half hours of football on a Sunday. We're just like, oh, I'm not doing drugs. It's like, yeah, okay. But like, we find ways not to feel our own feelings. These are the circumstances that we live in. And it can be easy for us to say, I just wish, like Frodo, we're like, I wish none of this had happened. I wish the ring never came to me. I wish none of this had happened. But then wisely, we need to listen to Gandalf. And what does Gandalf say? Yeah, sure. Like, obviously, this kind of stinks. Obviously, we wish things were different. But that's really not our decision. What do we have to decide? All we have to decide is what? What are we going to do with this time that we've been given? That's what we have to decide. And in today's gospel, this is where Jesus' call, I think it really helps us to hear Jesus' call a lot more clearly. Now more than ever, we're called to embrace this mission of Jesus Christ, the mission of the church, which is this mission of evangelization. Okay, today's gospel is a very famous scene. Jesus sends out the 72 disciples. These are the initial missionaries. Right? They're sent out to go to all the neighboring towns to tell people about this Jesus guy they just met, this Jesus from Nazareth, who's changed their lives completely changed their lives. And they go into these circumstances of their lives, which are, again, probably not too different from our own. But what does Jesus say? Hey, you're going to go out into these circumstances, and guess what? The harvest is abundant. That's what Jesus said. The harvest is abundant. In our circumstances, as much as we'd like to say that things are so bad or things are going so wrong, oh, okay, whatever. What would Jesus say? Well, if there's a widespread disaffiliation from any faith, if there's a rise in despair, if there's people numbing out from feeling anything, guess what? Guess what? The harvest is abundant. Isn't that great? That's the good news. There's no shortage of work for us to do. The harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. That's the challenge. Again, the harvest is abundant. There's no shortage of people that need the good news of Jesus Christ. There's no shortage of people that need the community, which is the church that Christ founded. There is no shortage of people that need the truth in an era where there's so much confusion around truth. No shortage of a harvest. So much to harvest. But the laborers are few. That's the challenge. The laborers for this harvest are not just the priests. The laborers for the harvest are the church, the members of the church. So our primary challenge is first and foremost to see ourselves as that being our mission, as embracing that mission. That's our primary challenge, to see that, oh, this isn't just the work for somebody else. This is my job. As a member of the church, this is my job. The harvest is out there. I'm one of those laborers that Jesus is calling. That's the primary challenge. The secondary challenge then is to accept that you're called to be one of these laborers in this time and in this place and in these circumstances. Our easy response is to be like Frodo and to be like, man, I wish I didn't get this time. I wish I got a different time. I wish this had never happened. Sure, again, we'd all love a different circumstance every now and then. But that's not for us to decide. Our response, our challenge, that response is to be like Brian. As much as we would love things to just be normal and chill and just everybody take care of themselves and it's all nice, we can recognize, like Brian, sometimes unexpected circumstances come up. We're placed in circumstances we didn't expect or we didn't ask for, but then we're called to respond with everything that we have. That's what Brian shows us, and actually Frodo did too eventually. Gives everything for this mission that's been entrusted to him. Right? I never thought that the adventure of my life would take me here. I've told you before, last time you ever have to hear me say this, I promise. I just wanted to be a doctor and get married and have some kids down in Wichita. That was easy. I'm like Brian. I wanted a normal, chill life. That's what I wanted. And yet, what happened? Right? I got called to the priesthood, and I get sent all over the world, literally, learned all different languages, literally, all different cultures, literally. I was settling into Derby. I was like 10 months in Derby, only 10 months. And I get a call from my friend, Bishop Kimmy. And Bishop Kimmy goes, "Hey, you ever heard of Rice County?" And I go, "What is that?" Right? I never expected that my life would take me here. And when I got here, you all know, I was very young, I was very dumb, and I was just trying to figure out how to be a pastor. And now, I'm still young and still dumb, but I am different. I've recognized, like when I showed up here, you guys were just a crowd. You were just the audience. You're just the parishioners. But now it's very different. Right? Now you're very much my family, my community. And that's why it is so hard to leave here. Because it's not just a crowd. It's not just a crowd anymore. A few weeks ago, this kind of typifies it. All the seniors, they hand out their graduation announcements. Right? I'm so blessed to get 150 of them. I get all these graduations, but one of the kids handed me their graduation announcement. The envelope just said "Father" on it, and I've gotten at least 6,752 envelopes in my life that just say "Father" on it. But for some reason, this one hit me different. Again, they didn't mean it in any sort of sentimental way at all. Trust me, I know this kid. But when I saw that on the envelope, "Father," that's when it really hit me. Right, you guys don't call me pastor. You guys don't call me Michael. You guys simply call me Father. And that's been the greatest privilege of my life. To be with some of you in the most difficult moments of your life. To be with some of you in the happiest moments of your life. It's been just an incredible privilege that you've allowed me to be let into your life and to walk with you. And so I'm just so grateful, not only to God for calling me to this, but so grateful to you for allowing me into your own lives. St. Paul, our patron, he would write letters back to the communities where he had been the pastor. We heard one of those letters today, his letter to the Galatians. And many of the letters, in the Galatians is kind of the exception. He's very mad at them, so that's a rough day for them. But for others, Paul writes them letters, and he's just filled with joy. He writes back to them and says things like, "I've heard about all the things that you've continued to do. I've heard about how your faith has continued to grow. I've heard about how you've continued to carry on well the mission of the church." And that would be my greatest hope, is that, I'm not going to write you a letter, don't worry. But my hope would be that I could write back a letter just full of gratitude to have heard and to continue to hear of all the beautiful things that continue to happen here in Rice County. This parish, you've been placed in this time, in this place, in these circumstances. The harvest is abundant here. Our mission, our job is simply to accept that, like Brian, to say, maybe I had a different plan or I thought I'd look a little different, but here I am. Here's the circumstances God has given to me. The Lord calls us. The harvest is abundant. Our job is simply to not be afraid and to respond to that.